the DP was Ed Lachman, who it's where I first met Ed, dear friend of mine now. We still, stay in touch, of course. But the last time we started shooting that, it's called Lightning Over Water, there was no camera assistant. And Ed said, well, why don't you pull focus? And I was like terrified. I had never done it before. But I did one shot and said, okay, I think I can do this. And Ed said, you're great. You're fantastic. And he said, anytime you decide to move to New York, I can use you, as a camera assistant.
And it was before monitors and stuff.
So it was like hand on the wheel. Yeah. Yes.
Wild stuff.
Yeah, you stood right by the camera and the operator, and, it's a totally different style of pulling focus now. It was just you put marks down and measure things out.
I can see why you were nervous.
Oh, yeah, it was terrifying. We finished One from the Heart, and I was ready to leave Zoetrope, ready to leave Los Angeles. It was a crazy experience, One from the Heart. It was a whole nother story, but I'll say that it was probably the last of, the big days of excess Hollywood, big parties every Friday night, and spending money crazily. And it was sort of as much fun as it was also really exhausting. And I decided I needed to try something else. And so moved to New York. My wife is from New Jersey, so we moved to New York, and I was there for 10 years. And I started working with Ed, doing everything, commercials, documentaries, features. We did Desperately Seeking Susan, and Susan Seidelman, who was the director of Desperately Seeking Susan, was doing her next film, which was called Making Mr. Right. And Ed said to me, because Ed normally operated his own projects, except if they were union and he needed to hire an operator. And on Making Mr. Right, he said, would you like to operate the A camera? And, of course I said yes, but I was completely terrified. Because I had never done anything. I hadn't operated second unit. I hadn't operated B camera. I had the only thing I'd operated were gray cards and slates. I mean, that was it. So all of a sudden I'm being thrust into, by my choice, of course, but a very big budgeted Hollywood movie as the A camera operator. I was more terrified of that than I was the first time I pulled focus. And I don't think I slept for weeks before we started shooting. But I'll never forget, the very first time, day one of shooting on that movie, sitting on the dolly, putting my eye to the eyepiece. That's when we still looked in the eyepiece as well. And feeling comfortable and realizing that I understand what the four lines of the frame are, that difference of, looking at this with your eye and then looking through an eyepiece and understanding how that translation works, what the lenses do and what the frame means. And it's maybe it's an intuitive response or instinctual understanding, but I knew I was going to be good at being a camera operator. Ed, because he operated most of the things, himself, he was a little bit of a hard taskmaster because I had never, and he would, after every take would come screaming at me like, nah.
He was giving you a hard time, yeah.
Yeah. And, so I always say, to Ed that I'm forever grateful he gave me the opportunity to move up, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive him the way he treated me.